So I've just finished plugging in a few more rolled out roses from the bare roots that arrived from David Austin. There's the Bathsheba. It replaced the Zephyrin Druin rose. It didn't make it, unfortunately. And just cleaning up this bed over here, the adjacent bed. These are all rolled out roses as well. And the thing about rolled out roses, they happen to have a very arching, graceful. It's graceful. The habit's graceful, but it's very arching. And so, but what I'll do is I'll go ahead and run a line of support in the front of the border. I'll make sure and use something that's more inconspicuous. Maybe some twine, some metal twine or something like that, because I don't want it to overpower the space. And that way it'll provide some support for these arching canes of the rolled out roses. This right here, it's going to have to come up. So I've since contacted David Austin about my Zephyrin Druin that died, and they're offering to give me a replacement. So two choices I have are the Pilgrim. Now, if any of you guys are familiar with these choices that I'm about to name, let me know what your experience is with growing them. So I've selected the Pilgrim, which is a beautiful, compact, ruffled, large flowering yellow, kind of like a pale, buttery yellow. It's a climber. And I also chose Compassion. Now, Compassion, it has deep, dark green leaves, and the flowers look like a hybrid tea rose, but it is a climber, and it is a beautiful climber. So those are my two choices. I told them, whatever they have available, please send them to me, and I'll be grateful. Now, guys, after showing you all these beds that I plugged in these bare root roses in, I'm going to head over to the Sun Garden and plug in, I want to say, either Princess Alexandra of Kent, or what's the other one I got? Imogen. I've got Imogen and Princess Alexandra of Kent. I think Princess Alexandra of Kent will look really good in that Sun Garden. And the adjacent garden, which is my part shade hydrangea garden, I'll go ahead and plug in the Imogen, because the Imogen will go really well with the color scheme I already have in that bed. Beautiful peony. Look at that flower. So full. This one over here is just opening up. Gorgeous. So right here, I'll go ahead and insert Princess Alexandra of Kent. It's a nice spot. Just need to get in here and kind of clean it up a little bit. Looks like I've got some rogue coneflowers that have sprouted. No worries. That pink color will contrast very nicely with that smoke bush back there. And this 9 bark, which I believe is summer wine. I think that's a summer wine 9 bark. So yeah, Princess Alexandra of Kent will go really nice right there. So here's the bare root right here. So it's been soaking since that last video of the unboxing of all my David Austin roses. Now I have, changed out the water a couple times with fresh water. I did think it was a pretty puny rose, you know, when I unboxed it, but hey, let's go ahead and plug her in. Before I start, guys, check out this smokeless tree. I am so excited that it has finally decided to put out flowers after having it for 3 years. It's been planted here for 3 years. But what I think attributes to it flowering is that we've had a pretty dry spring. And from what I understand, smoke bush trees or smoke bush, um, it doesn't like the soil to be too moist. So, I mean, I just think that this is spectacular, and it's not even that many blooms, but the fact that it is blooming, the fact that it is blooming at all, is just really exciting. Yeah. All right. I also got some seedlings, some yarrow seedlings, some coneflower seedlings that I most definitely can transplant somewhere else. Like, look at that yarrow clump right there. I can definitely transplant that somewhere else. So before I dig, let me get a few small pots and go ahead and pot up those seedlings. All right, so for tasks like these, I need my gloves off. I need my gloves off so that I can actually feel what's going on here. So not only do I have a yarrow or two, I also have a liatris. So I also have a gay feather right here. There's a liatris seedling. All right. So if I wanted to, I could fuss over it, pot it up, watch it grow into maturity. But we're not going to worry about that right now. Let's get this yarrow up. Okay. It's a lot of ants. Take most of the soil off. Okay. Try to keep the roots intact. So I'm not sure what variety this is. I don't know if this is what is it called, moonshine or something like that, or it could be the pastels. But whatever the case, we will pot it up and plant it in the fall. That's what I like about choice plants that are very opportunistic. So yarrow, in my climate, It's not a heavy reseeder, but it definitely does reseed. And if the clump is significant, like this one, I will definitely dig it up and transplant it somewhere else. So I'll just backfill that with some more compost. All right. So my choice weeds have provided me with 2 new yarrow plants and 3 new coneflower plants. So I've got a little bit of black cow manure. Go ahead and mix that with the native soil. And some pre-fertilized tree and shrub soil, because I really want this rose to get off to a good start. So I'm going to break up all the soil in the vicinity of this rose. Now, some great companion plantings for roses are salvia, um, such as Maynite, catmint, such as Walker's Low, um, lavender, great companion plants. And you notice most of those plants I named are all in the mint family. And they all have the same properties that repel pests. They tend to repel pests, you know, all the bad guys that like to mess with your roses. All right. So we got a really nice mixture here of the native clay soil, that mid-Atlantic clay soil, and this compost and shrub mix. All right, let's get our hole ready. All right, so we got a nice mix going on, like I said, and I had to put her in a watering can of to soak because the roots were starting to dry out. All right, so we can go ahead and remove this tag. So with your bare root roses, since they're bare root, you want to help them out a bit. All right, you want to help them out. You want to mound the soil in the hole and then splay the roots over that mound. All right, guys, one thing I forgot about this bed is that um, there are a lot of burrowing bees. Yes, there are such a thing that like to um, live underneath all of the debris and stuff like that. So I got to be careful. All right. So anyhow, figure out your face. All right. And I would like them, I would like it to kind of face this way. Nope, this way. All right. This way. Oh boy. Kind of get the wild roots covered up. All right. So that's how I would like it to face. Now, I know these all pushed up a certain way because of the position it was in, the box. So I'm going to get some fertilizer, some biotone, or actually in this case, some rose tone. And be as liberal as possible with this fertilizer. So I'm going to step back out of the bed, look at the position of that rose one more time, in all different angles to make sure the placement is right. All right. So yeah, that'll definitely fill in that area quite nicely. And the pink blooms are going to work well with the darker purple foliage on the purple smoke bush and this summer wine 9 bark. All right, so now we can go ahead and cover it up. Throw some water in there. Because when planting a rose, you want to make sure the root zone is nice and moist. Okay? This is your chance to make your final adjustments. You know, bend it in a certain direction and all of that good stuff. All right. Oh, look at that. We've got some grubs. I know who will thoroughly enjoy that. But I'm not saying any names. And I'll save it. All right. So I'm going to put kind of sort of like a ring around this rose or depression so that, oops, so that when it gets watered or when it rains, it can capture as much of that moisture as needed. All right, so now I'm a sweaty mess. That rose has been successfully planted. So now I'm going to go over to this garden, which is the part shade hydrangea garden, and tuck in the emotion. So right in between these two oak leaf hydrangeas, these are Alice oak leaf hydrangeas. Huge leaves. And as you can tell, they're starting to put on this year's blooms. So I'll go ahead and put the emojin rose right here. Now take a look at this holly tree behind me. It is filled with bees that are feeding off of the very tiny flowers. And it's feeding these small bees. These are carpenter bees. Well, actually, you got carpenter bees and just all kind of bees really are feasting off the tiny flowers. And one thing about the flowers, guys, they smell heavenly. I mean, it's perfuming the entire garden. And in addition to this tree, I have about four or five more holly trees, and it just perfumes this entire area. Now, the thing about this area is it does tend to collect a lot of water when it rains heavily. So, keeping that in mind, I'll have to plant this rose a little high just so that it can get sufficient drainage during those times. Find a nice hole. I've got massive roots here. I'm not sure if these roots are from the maple tree behind me, from the holly tree, or from these hydrangeas. So, unfortunately, I have to sever them because we want to give this rose a fighting start. So before I plant this rose, I see some crossing branches that's best to go ahead and remove right now before it starts putting on a lot of growth and choking the interior of the plant. It's good. So this rose has relatively straight roots, um, which makes it a little difficult to situate, but we'll do the best we can, all right? And again, the objective is to get it on the high side. This area gets pretty waterlogged during heavy rainstorms. Okay. So we want most of the roots to be in good contact with the native soil because we want it to continue to push down into the surrounding native soil with ease. So we want to keep this rose as mounded as possible. All right. So this rose needs a little bit more compost up to the crown. So now what I do, and what I've always done in this area when I plant, is after mounding, use some of the native leaves that fell from the trees above use that as mulch. Because you want that new plant to become quickly acclimated to its new home. I almost forgot the most crucial step, which is to water it in well. This has been a considerably dry spring. So we want to make sure this rose gets all the water it needs to get started. All right, garden friends. I really appreciate you guys hanging with me on this episode. I just ran through some of my garden beds and planted the rest of the bare root David Austin roses that I got in the mail a couple weeks ago. I'm hoping this treatment that I give these roses as I first put them in the ground for their first season will prove to be a successful season, and we're rewarded with some beautiful blooms. So again, thanks for hanging with me, and I'll see you on the next episode.